This is Patrick from the 8tracktapestore.com, and what we're going to talk about now is how to find the splice in a tape spool. There's different ways to do that. One of the things people like to do, because it's straightforward, is play a tape to the splice, it's called. And so we put it in the player. I have it off camera here. And we're going to play the tape until the exact moment that we hear the splice change. And as soon as that happens, you pop it out. And the splice, if you're spot on, is going to be right in front of you here. It's usually, you're usually a second late, and it's going to be back around here. Either way, you can take the top off the cartridge now, and it's pretty easy to get to. The reason that method is not recommended is oftentimes people get distracted, and you'll find yourself, even though you planned to sit right by the player, you'll find yourself outside of the room for some reason. And that always seems to be the moment that the tape breaks at the splice and wraps around the capstan and causes a big mess in your machine. So we don't like to do that very often. The safer way to find the splice, there's a couple ways. There's a slow way and a fast way, a very fast way. The slow way is to take your spool, put your finger down here to kind of keep the tape on, and just start hand winding, it's called. And you're going to hand wind until the splice, the foil, appears to your eyes, and then you'll be able to change it. That's one way to do it. We never hand wind anymore. What we do instead is use our drill. With a spool like this, with a hub like this, you don't need any bit on the end. You're going to actually use the hub itself as the bit. So we're going to attach the drill, and we're just going to start spinning it around like this. Now, I should have mentioned, always do the drill on the lowest torque possible, the #1 setting on this drill. If there's any obstruction encountered, you want the drill to just stop there instead of twisting the tape. And the #1, very lowest torque will accomplish that. You also don't want to squeeze the center of the hub too much. You're really just applying the drill and just grabbing it gently so you're not going to deform the center of it at all. And we keep going. And normally, like in this one, you can sort of see, because of the gap, when the splice is going to appear. We're almost there. And there it is. So the splice appeared, and there was actually an extra loop where it had folded over on itself. So we have the splice. It's passed by here a turn or two. So we're just going to unwind it to that point. There's the splice. We're going to repair the splice. We'll show you how to do that in the next video. This needs a little ironing. And then after that splice is repaired, you're just going to put these loops back on the tape. And let's see. I don't know. It's hard to tell when it's not ironed properly. But you put the loops back on the tape after you've replaced the splice, and you're good to go. This hub type's a little different. This is going to, if you want to use, you can hand wind it, of course. If you want to use the drill, what we do is we move the spindle onto our universal repair cart. And that's going to allow us to use the drill with the drill bit that we like. This is the drum drill bit that's been modified. I'm going to attach it. And because this universal cartridge repair thingy has a low post in the middle, we can just put the foam part of the drill bit in here. And we're doing the same thing. We're going to wind it around. You can hand wind it, of course, but this is much faster. And we're just going to do that, the same thing, until the foil splice appears in front of our eyes. And there it goes. So it whipped by me. I could catch the flash of light as it went around. We unwind it a turn, and there it is. We're going to replace that splice. And after we're done, leave the loops in while you're replacing the splice. After it's done, we put these loops back on, and then we're going to move the spindle back. But that's how you find the splice. I taught you 3 ways. One is playing to the splice, the other is hand winding, the other is the way we do it in the shop with every tape, and that's using the drill. I hope you enjoyed this tape. This is Patrick from the 8tracktapestore.com. Okay, so we have comments from our peer reviewers about this tape. First is something I'm going to add. So when using the drill method for finding a splice, it's not just something to do because it's lightning fast. So when you're using the drill method, on low torque, what you'll find is the motor will speed up and slow down as it encounters resistance in the tension of the tape, and it will do wonderful things like eliminate spaces in the tape spool, and it will actually spread the tension evenly throughout the tape, which is a goal that you want. Whereas hand winding, it's a herky-jerky motion, so you're going to have tight tension, loose tension, tight tension, loose tension as you're spacing it, and it's not going to work the gaps out of the tape. So there's old-timers out there, I know, who don't use this method, and mainly it's because they haven't tried it. And so if you hear from any of them, we'll just keep our secret that this is not only a quick way to find splices and re-spool tapes, but it's actually healthier for the tape. The second thing I want to mention is when you're cleaning your tape, when you're cleaning your cartridge, you want to take the spool off for sure. And then if you have a universal servicing cart, you'll place it on there. And if you don't, you'll just put it to the side. You want to clean the inside of the cartridge without the tape present, and then work on the tape. It's important to do that in that order, because if you work on the tape in a dirty cartridge, you're going to introduce issues into the tape with tension and whatnot. The last thing, excuse me. The last thing is, as far as the play to the splice method, if you actually have a player with an auto stop feature, it's called, then by all means that's a reasonable way to find splices. And an auto stop feature is when you put the tape in and you play it to the splice and then it automatically stops. That's a great way to do things. If you trust that feature, we have a player where that feature doesn't actually work most of the time. But if you have it, great. That's a great way to find a splice. So this is Patrick at the 8tracktapestore.com.